They said my Jeep was an eyesore and a cash pile that would fund my brother's new life. I said it was the only thing that had ever gotten me out when home turned ugly. The slap landed in the driveway neighbors watching keys on the asphalt. Dad sneered, "Sell it or don't come back." I picked up the keys and, for once, didn't apologize. Instead, I took notes. Every fraudulent charge, every forged signature, every stolen letter from my mailbox. They wanted my car. They'd get something else entirely, a paper trail leading straight to handcuffs. My name is Lauren Pierce, and I've been fixing broken things since I was 14. First cars, then people's excuses, now military-grade vehicles for Atlas recon systems. But that Saturday afternoon in Ridgeland, Ohio, standing in my parents' driveway with my cheek burning and my keys scattered on the concrete, I realized some things were meant to stay broken. The American flag hung limp on the Johnsons' porch across the street. No breeze to move it, just thick August air that smelled like cut grass and the gasoline leaking from my Jeep's ancient fuel line, a leak I'd been meaning to fix for months. The neighbors pretended to water their lawns, but I caught the glint of phone screens angled our way. Mrs. Klein had stopped trimming her roses altogether, pruning shears frozen mid-clip. "You heard me," Roy Pierce said. My father, who hadn't held a steady job since the factory closed but still wore his UAW Local 211 cap like a crown. His hand hung in the air between us, palm still red from the impact. "That heap is worth at least $15,000. Caleb needs it for the wedding." Behind him, my mother Dolores clutched her knockoff designer purse against her stomach, eyes darting between Roy's face and mine. She'd perfected that look over 25 years, the one that said she disagreed, but would never say so out loud. "The Jeep is mine," I said, tasting copper where I'd bitten my cheek. "Paid off 2 years ago. I have the title." Family helps family. This from Caleb, my younger brother, stepping out from behind Mom in his ridiculous salmon polo and boat shoes. His fiancée must have dressed him. The Caleb I knew lived in Buckeyes jerseys and work boots he never worked in. "Ashley's parents are covering the venue, but you promised them a $65,000 wedding you can't afford." I bent to pick up my keys, the chain making a small scraping sound against the driveway. Through the corner of my eye, I saw Mr. Davidson 2 houses down lift his phone higher. Roy stepped closer. I could smell the Budweiser on his breath, see the burst capillaries across his nose that had been spreading like a map of bad decisions since I was in high school. "You leave with that Jeep today. You don't come back. Period. No Thanksgiving, no Christmas, nothing. You're done here." "Roy," Dolores whispered, but he silenced her with a look I'd seen too many times. I stood slowly, keys biting into my palm. The house behind them, beige siding with green shutters I'd helped paint 3 summers ago, looked smaller than I remembered. The gutter I'd paid to have fixed sagged again on the left side. The primer showed through on the garage door where Roy had started repainting but never finished. "I've been done here since I was 18, and you cashed my technical school tuition check for your gambling debts," I said. The street went quiet. Even the Hendersons' yapping terrier stopped barking. Roy's face shifted from red to purple. "You ungrateful, I'm leaving." I turned toward my Jeep, a 1999 Wrangler with rust eating the wheel wells and a soft top held together with duct tape and prayer. But she ran. She always ran when I needed her to. "Don't you dare!" Roy grabbed my shoulder. I spun out of his grip, military training kicking in. "Touch me again, and Mrs. Klein's video goes straight to Ridgeland PD." Everyone turned to Mrs. Klein, who had the decency to wave her phone. "Full HD, hun. Got the audio, too." Roy's hand dropped. Caleb muttered something about family loyalty. Dolores stared at the cracked driveway like it might offer solutions. I climbed into the Jeep, the vinyl seat hot enough to burn through my jeans. The engine turned over on the first try, a small miracle. As I reversed out, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, red mark spreading across my left cheek like a signature. 2 blocks away. I pulled into the empty lot behind the abandoned Dairy Queen and called my supervisor at Atlas. Then I called the bank. Then I sat in my sauna of a vehicle and wondered why Caleb suddenly needed $65,000 for a wedding when 6 months ago he'd been planning a courthouse ceremony. My phone buzzed. A banking alert I didn't recognize. Ridgeland Community Credit Union. Your new card has been approved and mailed to your address on file. I'd never banked at Ridgeland Community Credit Union. I touched my swollen cheek and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Roy always said I was too much like him, stubborn, vindictive, unwilling to let things go. For once, he was right. The pattern started when I was 15. Small things first, $20 missing from my weekend oil change money, then the $100 I'd saved for winter tires. Must have miscounted, Mom would say, reorganizing the kitchen drawers with nervous energy. By 17, I was signing loan documents I didn't understand because family helps family, and Roy's credit was shot. The technical school tuition that vanished. That was just the grand finale of my teenage years. Now, at 32, sitting in my efficiency apartment above the Vietnamese grocery on Maple Street, I stared at the Ridgeland Community Credit Union alert and felt that old, familiar twist in my gut. But this time was different. This time, I had the skills to fight back. At Atlas Recon Systems, I maintained a fleet of 20 armored vehicles used for corporate security contracts, not military. Despite what people assumed, we were civilian contractors who transported sensitive materials for tech companies and banks. My job required obsessive documentation, every fuel receipt, every maintenance log, every minute discrepancy in inventory. I photographed everything, filed everything, created redundant backups of everything. My supervisor, Jake, called it paranoia. I called it insurance. Monday morning, 0600 hours sharp. I sat at my desk in the Atlas garage with 3 computer monitors glowing. The bruise on my cheek had turned purple-green, like an oil stain. Rafe, my shift partner, whistled low when he saw it. Jesus, Pierce, bar fight, family reunion. I pulled up my credit report on the center monitor. There it was. Ridgeland Community Credit Union, account opened 4 days ago, already carrying a $3,000 balance. The application showed my social security number, my date of birth, and an electronic signature that looked close enough to fool someone who didn't know better. But I knew better. The L in Lauren curved wrong. The P in Pierce was too vertical. Someone had practiced my signature but couldn't quite stick the landing. Need anything? Rafe asked, reading my face. Yeah. Can you pull my timesheet from last Thursday around 2:15 p.m.? He typed for a moment. You were here. We were replacing the run-flat tires on Unit 7. I've got the work order right here. Countersigned by Jake at 2:45 p.m. Why? Because according to Ridgeland Community Credit Union, I was across town opening an account at 2:21 p.m. I screenshot everything: the timesheet, the work order, the bank's timestamp. Can you email me that documentation? Done. Rafe studied my face. Your family. My family. That evening, I drove to Ridgeland Community Credit Union 10 minutes before closing. The assistant manager, a tired-looking woman named Brenda, pulled the security footage after I showed her my real driver's license versus the signature on file. Oh, honey, she said, freezing the frame at 2:21 p.m. Last Thursday, the woman at the counter wore a Cleveland Indians cap pulled low and sunglasses indoors, but I recognized the nervous way she clutched her purse, the same knockoff designer bag Dolores had held against her stomach in the driveway. I need copies of everything, I said. The application, the signature card, the security footage, all of it. This is identity theft. You need to file a police report. I will. But first, I need to know how deep this goes. Back in my apartment, I spread everything across my kitchen table like evidence in a case I was building because that's exactly what it was. The credit union account was just the beginning. A hard pull on my credit showed 3 more attempts in the past week, a Macy's card approved, $2,000 limit, maxed out same day, a Walmart credit account pending, and a personal loan application for $25,000 denied. Thank God. My phone rang. Mom. Lauren, sweetheart, Your father didn't mean, did you know? I interrupted. When you were standing in that credit union wearing Dad's baseball cap and signing my name, did you think about what you were doing to my future? Silence. Then, Caleb needs to live within his means. You committed a federal crime. Identity theft across state lines, wire fraud, mail fraud if that card comes to your house instead of mine. You wouldn't report your own mother. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Watch me. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't slap family in driveways while the neighbors watch. Family doesn't choose one kid's fantasy wedding over another kid's financial security. I pulled up the checklist I'd started. You have 48 hours to pay back everything and close those accounts, or I file charges. Lauren, please. The wedding deposits are non-refundable. The invitations are already sent. Think about Caleb. Like you thought about me. I hung up and called Maya Ellison, the lawyer whose number Rafe had slipped me along with the timesheet. She answered on the second ring. I charge $300 an hour, she said after I'd explained. But for identity theft, this clear cut you won't need many hours. Start documenting everything. Get a notebook. Write down every conversation with time and date. Screenshot every text. Record every voicemail. And Lauren, freeze your credit tonight. All 3 bureaus, they're not done yet. She was right. Before I could even finish with Experian, another alert someone had tried to add themselves as an authorized user on my one legitimate credit card, the signature on the request, same practiced but imperfect forgery. The address for the new card, 4782 Elmwood Drive. My parents' house. The dress shop sat wedged between a nail salon and a tax preparation office in Ridgeland's struggling downtown. Bella's Bridal Boutique, painted in fading gold script across the window. I pushed through the door on Wednesday afternoon, the bell chiming my arrival into a world of tulle and broken dreams. Can I help you? The saleswoman looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, which made 2 of us. I'm here about the Pierce Morrison wedding. I'm Caleb's sister. Not a lie. I wanted to surprise him by paying off some of the balance. Her face lit up like I'd offered her a kidney. Oh, thank God. We've been trying to reach someone about the final payment. The wedding's in 6 weeks and… How much is the balance? She clicked through her computer. $8,400 for the dress, alterations, and the bridesmaids' gowns. The deposit was placed on a credit card, but it was declined for the second payment. Can I see the signature on the credit slip? She turned the monitor. There it was, my name. That same trying too hard forgery, dated 2 weeks ago. The credit card number matched the Macy's account I'd just discovered. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I need to make a call first. I stepped outside and dialed Maya. They used the fraudulent Macy's card for wedding dress deposits. Beautiful. Document it. Get copies if you can. Back inside, I smiled at the saleswoman. I'm so sorry, but there's been some confusion with the payment methods. Could I get a copy of all the documentation for our records? Of course. She practically threw the papers at me. When can we expect payment? Soon, I said. One way or another. That evening, I sat in the parking lot of the post office on Jefferson Street, engine off, watching the door. Maya had coached me through this mail fraud was federal, and the postal inspectors didn't mess around. At 4:45 p.m., I walked in and approached the counter. I need to speak with someone about mail being stolen from my address, I said. The clerk, a middle-aged guy with military tattoos, straightened up. Stolen mail is serious. Let me get the supervisor. 20 minutes later, I sat in a back office with Postal Inspector Dennis Kumar, showing him the credit card statements listing my parents' address, the applications I'd never filled out, and the security footage from the credit union. Has any mail for you been redirected? He asked. I don't know. How would I check? He typed something into his computer, then frowned. A change of address form was filed last month. Starting August 1st, all mail for Lauren Pierce at your apartment was being forwarded to… He turned the monitor toward me. 4782 Elmwood Drive. I never filed that, I said. I know. The form requires ID verification for exactly this reason, but sometimes… He pulled up another screen. Here, the form was submitted at the Elmwood branch. Let me pull their security footage. We watched together as Dolores Pierce, my own mother, handed over a driver's license mine, reported lost 3 months ago, and signed the change of address form. The timestamp read 11:37 a.m. on a Tuesday when I was underneath an armored truck replacing brake lines. "This is a federal crime," Inspector Kumar said quietly. "Mail theft, fraudulent change of address, identity theft using the Postal Service. We'll need to coordinate with local law enforcement and potentially the FBI. "I want to handle this privately first," I said. "Give them a chance to make it right." He looked skeptical. "That's your choice, but we'll be opening an investigation regardless. Once the Postal Service is used in commission of identity theft, it's out of your hands." That night, I met my parents at the house. Neutral ground. Roy had called it. I brought my evidence binder 3 inches thick now, tabbed and color-coded like a military operation. "This is ridiculous," Roy said before I even sat down. "Threatening your mother with jail over a misunderstanding." I opened the binder to the security footage stills. Misunderstanding. Here's Mom at the credit union. Here's her at the post office with my stolen license. Here's the forged signatures want me to get a handwriting expert. Caleb needed stop. I slammed my hand on the table. Caleb is 28 years old. If he can't afford a $65,000 wedding, he shouldn't have one. You don't get to destroy my credit and commit multiple felonies because your golden boy bit off more than he could chew. Dolores started crying. Roy's face went red. "You've always been jealous of your brother." "Jealous," I laughed. "Of what? His inability to hold a job, his 3 failed engagements, the fact that you've been bailing him out since high school while I've been paying my own way since I was 16. We did what we had to do. Family. Family doesn't do this." I pulled out the postal inspector's business card. "Inspector Kumar is opening a federal investigation. The FBI will probably be involved. You're looking at 5 to 20 years. The color drained from Roy's face. "You're bluffing." "Try me." I stood. "You have 24 hours to pay back every cent and close every fraudulent account. Or I press charges. Full stop." "We don't have $8,000, Dolores whispered. "Then you better find it. Sell Roy's base boat. Sell the Camaro he never drives. Hell, sell Caleb's PlayStation. I don't care. 24 hours. As I walked to the door, Roy called out, "You'll regret this. When you need family." "I haven't had family since you stole my college money." I turned back. "Oh, and Roy, that Camaro title you're so proud of, the loan you had me co-sign when I was 19. Check the paperwork. I'm the primary. You're the co-signer. Might want to make those payments on time." His face went from red to white as the implications hit him. I left them sitting at their kitchen table, surrounded by the wreckage of their own greed, and drove home in my rusty Jeep, the only thing in my life they hadn't managed to steal. Yet. The timeline took 3 hours to build, laid out across my living room floor on poster board like a murder investigation. Red string connected the dots not literally. I wasn't that far gone. But the mental connections were clear. Every fraudulent charge mapped against my work schedule. Every forged document dated against my documented whereabouts. Thursday, August 1st, 11:37 a.m. Dolores at post office. I was logged into Atlas's secure system running diagnostics. Friday, August 2nd, 2:21 p.m. Account opened at credit union. I was under Unit 7 with Rafe. Monday, August 5th, 4:15 p.m. Macy's card maxed out at Bella's bridal. I was in a safety meeting with 12 witnesses. The pattern was clear. They'd studied my work schedule. They knew when I couldn't possibly be where they were pretending I was. My phone buzzed. Mrs. Klein, the neighbor with the rose bushes and the quick camera hand. "Lauren, dear, I thought you should know I have the full video from Saturday. Not just the incident, but the whole conversation before. Your father discussing the wedding costs, your mother mentioning the credit cards, all of it. Can you send it to me?" "Already did. Check your email." "And Lauren, I've been your neighbor since you were born. I watched you work 3 jobs to get through school while they bought Caleb his 3rd car. Sometimes family is who chooses to protect you, not who shares your blood. The video was damning. 17 minutes of Roy laying out exactly how they'd use Lauren's credit to finance the wedding. Dolores worried about getting caught. Caleb insisting I owed them for living there rent-free as a child, as if children pay rent, as if I hadn't paid for every grocery trip from 16 on. At Atlas the next morning, Rafe found me cross-referencing the timeline with our maintenance logs. "Building a case?" he asked, setting coffee on my desk, real coffee, not the motor oil we usually drank. "Building a fortress?" I showed him the timeline. Every single fraudulent transaction happened when I was here, logged in, working. Our system timestamps everything. "You need more than timestamps." He pulled up his phone. "Remember the new security system Jake installed last month? The one that photographs everyone who badges in? My heart rate jumped. It takes photos. Every entry, every exit." He logged into the system. "Look, here's you on August 1st at 05:45 hours. Here's you leaving at 1800 hours. Continuous footage showing you never left the facility during your shift." "Rafe, I could kiss you." "My husband would object." He started downloading the files. "But I'll accept a beer when this is over." That afternoon, I had an appointment Maya had arranged with the fraud department at my legitimate bank. The branch manager, a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to anyone in my family, thank God, reviewed everything with the expression of someone who'd seen too much but still managed to be appalled. "The systematic nature of this," she said, flipping through the evidence. "This isn't desperation. This is planned theft." "Can you trace where the money went?" She typed for a moment. "The Macy's charges all went to Bella's bridal and a caterer called O. This is interesting Morrison Elite Events. That's the bride's family business." I leaned back. "They're using my credit to pay the bride's family for their own services." That's wire fraud on top of identity theft. The Morrison family could be implicated if they knew the cards were fraudulent." Another piece clicked into place. "Can you print all of that? The full transaction history." "Already printing. Lauren, you need to know we're required to report this to federal authorities. This crosses state lines, involves multiple financial institutions." "I know. I'm meeting with law enforcement tomorrow." That evening, I decided to poke the bear. I called Caleb. "What do you want?" He answered on the first ring, voice tight. "Just wondering how the wedding planning is going." "Must be stressful. Planning a $65,000 party on a warehouse worker's salary." "I got promoted to shift supervisor." "Congratulations." "That's what. $40,000 a year. Before taxes, Ashley's parents must be thrilled their daughter's marrying so well." "Shut up, Lauren." "Did you know?" I asked directly. "When Mom was opening accounts in my name." "Did you know?" Silence. Then, "You have everything. The job, the apartment, the independence. You needed. You needed to destroy my credit. You needed to commit federal crimes. It's just money. You can make more. It's my future, Caleb. Every apartment I try to rent, every car loan, every background check for work, this follows me for 7 to 10 years minimum. Drama queen as always." I laughed. "Caleb, do you know what I do at Atlas? I maintain vehicles worth more than your fantasy wedding costs. I have security clearance. If my credit gets fucked, I lose my clearance. I lose my job. But hey, at least you'll have nice flowers at your reception." Mom said you're bluffing about the charges. Mom's about to find out otherwise. By the way, did Ashley's family know the deposits came from stolen credit cards? Because Patricia at First National has some questions about Morrison Elite Events accepting fraudulent payments. The line went quiet, except for his breathing. "They didn't know," he said finally. "Ashley's father would kill me if he found out his future son-in-law is a thief. Yeah, that might put a damper on the father-daughter dance. Please, Lauren, I'll pay you back. With what's your supervisor salary that barely covers your truck payment? The savings you don't have." Another credit card you'll open in someone else's name. I could go to jail. No, Caleb, Mom and Dad will go to jail. You're just the pathetic accomplice who couldn't afford his own wedding. I hung up and went back to my timeline. Tomorrow was Friday. If they didn't return the money by 5 p.m., I was filing charges. But first, I needed one more piece of evidence. I grabbed my keys and headed to their house. It was trash night, and the bins were at the curb. Perfectly legal to examine trash once it's on public property. Maya had made sure I knew that. In the recycling bin, under a stack of grocery store circulars, I found a draft of the credit union application in Dolores's handwriting, practicing my signature in the margins. Below that, printouts from my social media showing my work schedule, circled in red ink. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd studied me like prey. I photographed everything under the streetlight, then left their trash exactly as I'd found it. 22 hours until the deadline. The evidence binder was now 4 inches thick. I was ready for war. The Ridgeland family restaurant sat on Main Street like a relic from Better Times' red vinyl booths. Wood paneling. The same signed photo of the 1997 high school football team by the register. Sunday brunch meant half the town would be there, which is exactly why I chose it. I arrived 15 minutes early, claiming the large corner booth. The binder came out first, followed by 9 manila envelopes, each one labeled with a name: Aunt Carol, Uncle Pete, Cousin Jamie, and so on. The extended Pierce family was about to get an education. They trickled in slowly. Carol arrived first, designer purse and judgment at the ready. Lauren, this better be important. I had to cancel my yoga class. It's important. I gestured to the envelopes. Please, sit. Wait for the others. By 11:15, they were all there. Roy and Dolores came last. Roy strutting like he'd already won whatever battle this was. Caleb sat between them and Ashley, whose parents flanked her other side. The Morrison family owners of Morrison Elite Events looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Thank you all for coming, I said, standing. I wanted family here for this. Drama as always, Roy muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. I opened the binder and pulled out the flat-screen tablet I'd borrowed from work. Before we start, Mr. Morrison, you should know that your business accepted fraudulent credit card payments. You'll want to see this. I started the video. Mrs. Klein had been thorough. She'd captured Roy explaining the whole scheme to Dolores while Caleb nodded along. The sound was crystal clear. Lauren won't even notice until the statements come, and we're having them sent here anyway. Ashley's face went white. Her father's went red. Turn it off, Roy demanded. We're just getting started. I clicked to the next file: security footage from the credit union. That's Mom, committing felony identity theft. Timestamp shows 2:21 p.m., August 2nd. Here's my timesheet from Atlas showing I was at work. I passed around the printed copies. Here's the photo from our security system showing me at my desk at that exact moment. The restaurant had gone quiet around us. Other diners were trying not to stare, but failing. Next, we have the postal fraud. New video: Dolores at the post office with my stolen license. Federal crime. Inspector Kumar from USPS is particularly interested in this one. Lauren, please, Dolores whispered. Please what? Mom, please don't show everyone how you studied my work schedule. I pulled out the paper from their recycling. You circled my shifts in red, planned every fraudulent transaction for when I'd have an alibi. I handed Ashley's father the envelope marked Morrison. Inside, you'll find documentation showing your business accepted $8,000 in payments from a fraudulently obtained credit card. The FBI will want to know if you were aware. We had no idea. Mr. Morrison said firmly, glaring at Caleb. We would never. I believe you, which is why I'm giving you the chance to return the money before authorities get involved. This is our son's wedding, Mrs. Morrison said, voice icy. You're telling me it was being paid for with stolen money. Your son's wedding, I said, meeting Caleb's eyes, was being financed by destroying my financial future. Uncle Pete, who'd been silent until now, opened his envelope. Inside were screenshots of the fraudulent accounts, the forged signatures, the trail of theft. Jesus Christ, Roy, you robbed your own daughter. It's not robbing when it's family money. Roy started, but Aunt Carol cut him off. Family money, did Lauren agree to this? Did she sign these papers? She held up the forged documents. Because this signature looks like shit. Roy, I've seen Lauren's real signature on birthday cards for 20 years. The walls were closing in on them. Other restaurant patrons had given up pretending not to watch. I recognized several Mrs. Patterson from the library, Tom from the hardware store, 3 teachers from the high school. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out the final document. This is a notarized statement documenting everything. The identity theft, the mail fraud, the wire fraud, all of it. Copies have been provided to my lawyer, the postal inspector, and the FBI field office in Cleveland. Gasps around the table. Ashley pulled her engagement ring off and set it in front of Caleb. However, I continued, if every penny is returned by 5 p.m. tomorrow, and all fraudulent accounts are closed, I'll consider not pressing charges. Consider, not promise. We don't have the money, Roy said, his voice smaller now. Then you better find it. Sell the boat. Sell the Camaro. Take out a legitimate loan in your own names. I don't care how you do it. Mr. Morrison stood. The $8,000 will be refunded to the fraudulent card immediately. Our business wants no part of this. He looked at Caleb. The wedding is off. Don't contact my daughter again. Dad, please, Ashley started. No, we're leaving. The Morrison family filed out, Ashley crying, her parents stone-faced. The rest of the family turned on Roy and Dolores like wolves. 30 years of resentments poured out the money borrowed and never returned. The family events they'd ruined with their drama, the favoritism toward Caleb that everyone had noticed but never addressed. You hit her, Cousin Jamie said, having watched the driveway video. You hit Lauren and then robbed her. It was a slap, Roy protested weakly. Battery and identity theft, I corrected. My lawyer says it's enough for a restraining order on top of the criminal charges. One by one, the family members left, each telling Roy and Dolores exactly what they thought. Uncle Pete stopped by my seat on his way out. Should have done this years ago, kiddo. We all saw how they treated you. Then why didn't anyone say anything? He had no answer for that. Finally, it was just the 4 of us, Roy, Dolores, Caleb, and me. The Sunday church crowd was starting to arrive, and news traveled fast in Ridgeland. Everyone would know by dinner. You've ruined everything, Caleb said. My wedding, my life. You ruined your own life the moment you agreed to steal from me. I packed up my binder. 5 p.m. tomorrow. Every penny, or I file charges. As I walked out, I heard Dolores sobbing and Roy trying to calm her. The hostess, a girl from my high school class, gave me a small nod of approval. In the parking lot, my Jeep started on the first try. I sat there for a moment, watching through the window as my family fell apart in the corner booth, their shame on display for all of Ridgeland to see. It wasn't justice yet, but it was a start. The call came at 3:45 p.m., Monday, from the Ridgeland Post Office, not from Inspector Kumar, but from the clerk at the front desk. Miss Pierce, we have a certified letter here that requires your signature. It's from a credit card company, marked urgent. My blood went cold. Another account I hadn't discovered yet. I'll be right there, I said, grabbing my keys and my phone. On the way, I called Maya. Don't go alone, she said immediately. This could be a setup. They might be trying to intercept you. I'm recording everything, I said, starting my phone's voice recorder. And I just texted Inspector Kumar. The post office was nearly empty when I arrived, just the clerk and one other customer. I approached the counter carefully. I'm Lauren Pierce. You called about a certified letter. Yes, just one moment. He went to the back, returning with an envelope. I'll need to see ID. I handed over my driver's license, watching him verify it carefully. As he processed the signature, Inspector Kumar walked in from the back office. Miss Pierce? he said formally. "We've been monitoring this situation. Could you step into my office after you receive your mail?" The letter was from Capital One, a new credit card I hadn't applied for, already maxed out at $5,000. My hands shook as I followed Kumar to his office, where two other people waited, a woman in an FBI windbreaker and a detective from Ridgeland PD. "Miss Pierce," the FBI agent said, "I'm Special Agent Martinez. We've been building a case since Inspector Kumar flagged this, but we need your cooperation for something." "What kind of something?" "A controlled delivery. We know your mother has been intercepting your mail. We want to catch her in the act." She pulled out a document. "This is a dummy credit card we've created in your name. It looks real but isn't linked to any actual account. We'll mail it to your apartment, and when someone tries to redirect or steal it, you'll have federal mail theft on camera." I finished. "Exactly. But more importantly, we suspect this goes deeper. The fraud against you fits a pattern we've been tracking. Your parents may have done this before." My stomach dropped. "To who?" "That's what we're trying to determine. Will you help us?" I signed the cooperation agreement without hesitation. 2 hours later, I sat in my Jeep outside the Ridgeland Community Credit Union with Agent Martinez in the passenger seat. We watched as Dolores walked in at 5:58 p.m., 2 minutes before closing. "She's trying to access the fraudulent account," Martinez said, watching through binoculars. "Look, she's arguing with the manager." Through the window, we could see the manager shaking her head, pointing to something on her computer screen. Dolores's gestures became increasingly agitated. "The account's been frozen," I said. "I had it frozen this morning." Dolores stormed out, phone to her ear, probably calling Roy. She didn't notice us watching from across the parking lot. "Phase 2, Martinez said. "Tomorrow morning, the dummy card gets mailed." That evening, I got a text from an unknown number, a photo of my Jeep in the Atlas parking lot, taken from a distance. Then another me walking into my apartment building. The message read, "You think you're safe." I forwarded it immediately to Martinez and Maya. Within an hour, Ridgeland PD had traced the phone to a burner purchased at a gas station. Security footage showed Roy buying it with cash. "Intimidation and stalking," Maya said over the phone. "Add it to the charges." Tuesday morning, 0900 hours sharp. The mail carrier delivered the dummy credit card to my apartment building's mailboxes. Kumar had positioned himself in an unmarked van across the street. Martinez waited in another vehicle. I sat in my apartment, watching the feed from the new camera Kumar had installed with the building manager's permission. At 10:23 a.m., Dolores appeared in the lobby. She had a key one I'd never given her. She went straight to my mailbox, used another key I'd never given her, and removed the mail. All of it, including the dummy card. "Got her." Kumar's voice crackled over the radio app Martinez had given me. "Federal mail theft, on camera, with postal inspectors as witnesses." But Dolores wasn't done. She sat in the lobby, opened the credit card envelope right there, and activated the card using the lobby phone, or tried to the number connected to a recorded line at the FBI. "This is Dolores Pierce calling to activate a card," she said, then rattled off the numbers. "Yes, Lauren Pierce. Yes, that's my social security number." She recited my SSN from memory. The trap was sprung. Within minutes, marked units surrounded the building. I watched from my window as they arrested her in the lobby, reading her Miranda rights while other tenants stared. She kept screaming that I was her daughter, that family doesn't do this to each other. My phone rang. "Roy." "You bitch," he snarled. "They just arrested your mother." "I didn't arrest her. The FBI did, for federal crimes she committed." "Call them off." "Can't. Won't. She made her choice when she stole my mail and committed identity fraud." "I'll ruin you." "You already tried." "How'd that work out?" I hung up and blocked his number. An hour later, Martinez called. "Your mother is talking. She's trying to cut a deal. Says the whole thing was Roy's idea. She's got documentation, apparently. Roy's been running this scam for years. You weren't the first victim. Lauren, your cousin Brad, the one who died in Afghanistan. Roy stole his identity while he was deployed. Used it for 3 credit cards. I sat down hard. Brad had complained about credit problems before he deployed for the last time. The family had blamed his ex-wife. There's more, Martinez continued. Your elderly neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, the one who went to the nursing home last year, $5,000 in charges after she was admitted. Your father did maintenance work in her apartment, had access to her papers. Oh my God! Lauren, this is now a RICO case, racketeering. Your parents were running a criminal enterprise. With what your mother's giving us, Roy's looking at 20 to 30 years. Your mother might get 5 to 10 if her cooperation holds up. That evening, Caleb called from a number I didn't recognize. They took Dad, he said, voice hollow. SWAT team at the house. The neighbors filmed everything. I know. This is your fault. No, Caleb, this is their fault. And yours, for going along with it. I lost everything. Ashley, the wedding, my parents. You lost things that were built on crimes against me. That's not loss. That's justice. He hung up. I blocked that number too. At 11:30 p.m., I sat in my apartment looking at the dummy credit card they'd let me keep as evidence. Tomorrow, the restraining orders would be filed. The family home would probably be seized as proceeds of crime. The Camaro had already been repossessed when they missed the payment I'd stopped covering. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Decline. Saw the arrest on the news. About time someone stopped them. Your grandmother would be proud. Grandma Pierce. She died when I was 10. Left me a savings bond that mysteriously disappeared. Now I knew where it went. The Jeep keys sat on my coffee table, catching the light from the street lamp outside. That rusty, reliable vehicle, the only thing they hadn't managed to steal. The thing that had started this whole confrontation. Tomorrow, I'd drive it to work and continue maintaining Atlas's fleet. My credit would take years to repair, but the fraudulent accounts were being removed. The criminals who'd pretended to be my parents were in custody, for the first time since that slap in the driveway. I could breathe. The motion sensor lights clicked on as I pulled into the driveway of 482 Elmwood Drive at 8:45 p.m. on Thursday. The same lights that had illuminated my humiliation 12 days ago. The same concrete where my keys had scattered. The same audience Mrs. Klein was watering her roses in the dark. Mr. Davidson walking his dog for the 5th time today. I wasn't alone. Detective Morrison, no relation to Ashley's family, sat in the passenger seat, and a process server named Derek waited in his own car behind us. In my hand, 3 documents, a restraining order, an eviction notice for the home I now legally owned. The title search had revealed my name on the deed from when I'd co-signed their refinance, and a civil suit for damages. You sure about this? Morrison asked. We could handle it without you present. They slapped me in this driveway with everyone watching. They get served in this driveway with everyone watching. Roy came out first, probably thinking I was there to beg for reconciliation. He still wore that same UAW Local 211 cap, but his swagger was gone. Federal custody for 48 hours had taken something out of him. Behind him, Dolores peered through the screen door, ankle monitor visible even in the porch light. Get off my property. Roy started, then saw Detective Morrison's badge. Actually, I said, stepping out of the Jeep. It's my property. Has been since 2018 when you forged my signature on the refinance documents. Funny thing about fraud contracts based on it are void, but the original deed transfer stands. Derek approached with his clipboard. Roy Pierce, Dolores Pierce. You're being served. Wah, Roy wouldn't take the papers, so Derek set them at his feet legally sufficient for service. The restraining orders required them to stay 500 feet away from me, my workplace, and my apartment. The eviction gave them 30 days to vacate. The civil suit sought damages for identity theft, fraud, and emotional distress. You can't evict us, Dolores called from the doorway. We've lived here 30 years. And you've owned it for 0 of those years, I replied. Check the courthouse records. When you forged my signature to refinance, you accidentally transferred the deed entirely to me. Your lawyer should have caught that. But then again, you used LegalZoom, Didn't you?" Caleb's truck screeched into the driveway, nearly hitting Davidson's dog. He jumped out, face red. "What the hell are you doing, serving legal papers?" Detective Morrison said calmly. "Sir, I need you to step back." "This is my house." "No," I said, pulling out the courthouse documents. "It's mine." "You're a guest, and as of—" I checked my watch. "Right now, you're trespassing. You have 5 minutes to gather immediate belongings. You can schedule a supervised move-out for the rest." "This is insane!" Caleb shouted. "You're throwing out your own family." "Family." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Brad Miller was family. Remember our cousin, the one whose identity Dad stole while he was serving in Afghanistan? Mrs. Wilson was like family, the neighbor who baked cookies every Christmas until Dad stole her credit cards while fixing her sink. The neighbors had given up all pretense of not watching. More had come out: the Johnsons, the Pattersons, the elderly Murphy twins from the corner house. "Everyone's watching," Roy said quietly, his face pale. "Just like they watched you hit me," I responded. "Just like they watched you tell me to sell my car or never come back. Well, Roy, I'm back. With paperwork." A tow truck rumbled up the street, not for the Camaro this time, but for Roy's base boat, the one asset not in my name that could be seized for the federal restitution order. "That's mine." Roy started toward the driver. "Not anymore," Detective Morrison said. "Federal asset forfeiture. Proceeds from criminal enterprise." The driver hooked up the boat with practiced efficiency. Roy stood in the driveway, fists clenched, watching $20,000 of weekend fishing trips get hauled away. 5 minutes, I reminded them. "Starting now." Dolores scurried inside. Through the window, I could see her grabbing photo albums, Roy's medications, some clothes. Caleb stood frozen, like he couldn't process what was happening. "Where are we supposed to go?" he finally asked. "That's not my problem. Maybe Ashley's parents have a spare room. Oh wait, they want nothing to do with you after learning you're a thief. This is cruel." Cruel. I pulled out my phone, showing him my credit report. 7 fraudulent accounts. 63,000 in debt I didn't create. 3 years minimum to repair my credit. Maybe 7. 5 credit cards I can't get approved for. 2 apartments that rejected my applications. And a security clearance review at work that could cost me my job. That's cruel. Mrs. Klein walked over, bold as brass. "Lauren, honey, I want you to know the whole neighborhood supports you. We've all suspected something wasn't right in that house for years." "Now you say something," Roy snarled at her. "We thought it was family business," Mr. Davidson added, joining her. "But identity theft, federal crimes. That's not family business. Roy, that's just crime." The 5 minutes expired. Dolores came out with 2 garbage bags of belongings. Derek photographed everything for the eviction record. "You have 30 days to arrange supervised removal of the rest," Detective Morrison told them. "Any attempt to enter the property without supervision will violate the restraining order and the terms of your federal pretrial release." "This house has memories," Dolores said quietly. "Yeah," I agreed. "Bad ones. Like when Dad gambled away my college fund in this kitchen, or when you took my birthday money from my dresser upstairs, or when you practiced forging my signature at that dining room table." A locksmith van pulled up perfect timing. I'd paid extra for the evening service. "Changing the locks now," Caleb said. "We're not even gone yet." "You're gone now," I said. "Off my property. Or Detective Morrison arrests you for trespassing and violating a restraining order." They loaded into Caleb's truck Roy and Dolores in the back seat like scolded children. As they backed out, Roy rolled down the window. "You'll regret this," he said. When I need what, I cut him off. Family you stole from your nephew while he was in a war zone. You robbed an elderly woman with dementia. You destroyed your daughter's credit for a wedding that's not even happening. You're not family. You're just criminals who happen to share my DNA." They drove off, taillights disappearing down Elmwood. The locksmith got to work immediately. The neighbors lingered, some offering support, others just processing the drama they'd witnessed. The garage keypad code is changed, I told Detective Morrison. Security system installed tomorrow, cameras going up this weekend. You planning to live here? He asked. I looked at the house beige siding, sagging gutters, ghosts in every room. Hell no. I'm selling it the second the eviction is complete. Market's good. Should clear about $90,000 after the mortgage is paid. Ironic, isn't it? They stole from me to pay for a $65,000 wedding, and now I'll get $90,000 from selling the house they accidentally gave me. Mrs. Klein patted my arm. Your grandmother would be so proud, honey. She always said you were the only one in that family with backbone. As the locksmith finished and handed me the new keys, I stood in the driveway where this all began. The motion sensor lights clicked off, then on again as I moved. The same lights that had illuminated my humiliation now witnessed my victory. The Jeep started on the first try. Like always, I backed out carefully, leaving the house locked and empty, its former occupants banished by their own crimes. Justice tasted like metal keys and legal documents, and it was perfect. The parking lot of St. Matthew's Church was packed for what should have been engagement photos. 3:50 p.m. on a Saturday. Golden hour approaching. The photographer already setting up his equipment. The extended Pierce family had gathered some to support Roy and Dolores, others just to witness whatever drama would unfold next. I parked the Jeep strategically, blocking in Caleb's truck. Agent Martinez sat beside me, recording device in her purse. Maya waited in her car, ready with the final documents. You sure this is necessary? Martinez asked. They're violating the restraining order by being within 500 feet of me. They knew I'd be here. I own the property next door now, and they saw my Jeep. This is their last stand, trying to turn the family against me. We walked toward the group. Roy saw me first, his face cycling through surprise, anger, and fear. You can't be here, he said loudly. This is our family gathering. Actually, you can't be here. I pulled out my phone, showing the GPS marker. You're 460 feet from property I own. Restraining order says 500 feet minimum. Detective Morrison emerged from an unmarked car. Mr. Pierce, Mrs. Pierce, you're under arrest for violating a protective order. The family erupted. Some shouted at me, others at Roy. Caleb tried to run but found his truck blocked. Before you take them, I said loudly, pulling out a small speaker. Everyone should hear this. I hit play. Dolores's voice filled the parking lot, the confession she'd made at the post office. I'm Lauren Pierce. Yes, that's my social security number. Then Roy's voice from the FBI interview room. Yeah, we took the kid's money. So what, Brad was dead anyway? Not like he needed credit in Afghanistan? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Aunt Carol covered her mouth. Brad's mother, my Aunt Janet, let out a wail. You stole from my dead son. Janet lunged at Roy. Morrison had to hold her back. There's more, I announced, pulling out the folder Maya had prepared. Every person here who ever lent Roy money, co-signed a loan, or noticed strange charges you were victims. Mrs. Patterson, that $500 you lent for my appendix surgery in 2015, I never had surgery. Mr. Johnson, the lawn equipment that went missing from your garage, Roy sold it on Craigslist. I handed out copies of the evidence bank records, forged documents, even screenshots of Roy's gambling site accounts showing where the money really went. 30 years, Uncle Pete said quietly. 30 years of cons and theft. Caleb finally spoke up. This is insane. They were just trying to help me. Help you. Ashley's voice cut through the crowd. She stood by her parents' car, still wearing what would have been her engagement photo dress. They destroyed your sister's life to pay for a wedding you couldn't afford. What kind of man allows that? She walked over to me, holding out an envelope. The $8,000 my father refunded from the fraudulent charges. It's yours. And Lauren, I'm sorry. I didn't know. None of us knew the extent. Mrs. Morrison added, but we should have asked questions when Caleb suddenly had money for deposits. Detective Morrison handcuffed Roy and Dolores while reading their rights. The photographer, who'd been capturing everything, asked if I wanted him to stop. No, I said. Document all of it. As they were led to the patrol car, I pulled out one final document, the deed transfer for the house, now fully in my name after the court ruled the fraudulent refinancing void. Oh, and Roy, I called out. The house sold yesterday. Cash offer, $93,000. After paying off the fraudulent mortgage you took in my name, I netted $40,000. Funny how that works. You tried to steal $65,000 for a wedding, and I ended up with $40,000 from selling the house you accidentally signed over to me. Roy's face went purple. That's our house. Was your house. Until you committed fraud using my identity. Judge ruled all contracts stemming from identity theft are void, but the original deed transfer stands since you can't prove I didn't sign it because you destroyed the originals to hide your forgery. Dolores sobbed as they were placed in the patrol car. Caleb stood alone, abandoned by Ashley, shunned by the family, watching his parents get driven away. You destroyed everything, he said to me. No, I replied, hefting the evidence box. I documented everything. Big difference. I walked to the church steps where the family had gathered and set down the box. Every receipt, every forged signature, every stolen check, 15 years of evidence. Anyone who wants to file charges or civil suits, it's all here. Maya, I gestured to my lawyer, will provide copies to anyone who needs them. One by one, family members came forward. Janet took the evidence about Brad. Mrs. Patterson found her loan documents. Mr. Johnson discovered the Craigslist posting for his mower. By the time they finished, Roy and Dolores faced 17 additional charges. I walked back to my Jeep, keys jangling the same keys that had scattered on concrete 2 weeks ago. Mrs. Klein stood by it, holding a gift bag. Your grandmother's jewelry, she said quietly. I've been keeping it safe since I saw Dolores try to pawn it last year. Figured you'd want it back when you were ready to fight. Inside was Grandma Pierce's wedding ring, her pearl necklace, and a note in her handwriting, for Lauren, the only honest Pierce. I looked around the parking lot, my tormentors arrested, their schemes exposed, the family finally seeing the truth. The golden hour sun hit the church windows, sending light cascading across the scene. Caleb still stood frozen, reality settling in. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem, I said, getting into the Jeep. Maybe you can sell your PlayStation. Oh wait, Dad already pawned it to pay for his lawyer. The engine started immediately, faithful as always. As I drove away, I saw the family members dividing up the evidence box, planning their own cases, finally understanding why I'd kept my distance all these years. My phone buzzed with a text from Rafe at Atlas. Saw the news, beers on me tonight. Then another from Maya. All charges filed. Federal trial starts next month. Your testimony will bury them. And one from Inspector Kumar. Fraud ring connected to 12 victims across 3 states. You broke the case wide open. The sun was setting as I pulled into my apartment complex, the Jeep's headlights cutting through the growing darkness. In my pocket, the new keys to a house I'd already sold. $40,000 in my account, and a future finally free from the people who'd tried to destroy it. I climbed the stairs to my efficiency apartment above the Vietnamese grocery, the smell of pho drifting up from below. Tomorrow I'd go to work at Atlas, maintaining vehicles worth more than Roy and Dolores would ever see. Next month, I'd testify at their federal trial. In a year, my credit would be partially recovered. But tonight, I'd drink beer with Rafe, count my grandmother's pearls, and enjoy the sound of my phone not ringing with demands for money I didn't owe. The Jeep's engine ticked as it cooled in the parking lot, faithful to the end. Justice had been served in a church parking lot, with the whole family as witnesses. And not once did I apologize. Thank you all for listening to my story. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up to family who crossed the line? Let me know in the comments. Your support means everything, and I'll see you in the next story.